Oh, you like to summon demons now, do you? Well, BAM! You also get curses because it turns out you are a warlock before you are a demonology warlock, which, from a sentence structural point of view, it can be confusing. We are here to make it less confusing and showcase what's new for demo in Shadowlands with conduits, covenants, and condoms. No, this is not. When I am not pretending to make mistakes on scripts, I will probably be streaming, and you can find our asses on twitch.tv/MarcelianOnline. We cover specs and class changes and test them live, and yeah, maybe sometimes we raid and do keys with you viewers. So how about it? There's at least one day of the week where our schedules can match. We'll see you there. Starting with the baseline stuff, once again, curses are back. Right now, 3 are available and they have decent utility. Curse of Exhaustion is pretty self-explanatory that might work with the reduced pull count in dungeons where you can help your tank kite those pesky mobs. Weakness will probably be your most used one for general purpose, while Curse of Tongues has some usage on key casters in the group, in the dungeon, you know what I mean. These will probably find a place more in dungeons than anything, and depending on how high a key you want to do, they can start to really make a difference. But Flame demo is a meme spec in dungeons. It doesn't have an interrupt. Well, viewer, Axe Toss now stuns or interrupt. It's not the best scenario, clearly. Targets that cannot be stunned will be interrupted. Even if you stun and stop the cast, you don't lock the school of magic of the target, and certain mobs are scripted to attempt to recast the spell no matter how many stuns or knockbacks or disorients you use, unless you actually interrupt. So the mechanic itself matters, and how they script the casters matters. It's better than nothing, clearly, but for a spec that specializes on summoning demons, you would think it would come naturally to be able to summon a Fell Hunter for a quick kick and nothing else. Moving on. You get to move around more. These segues. Oh yeah, Demonic Circle is now baseline, and I am still not used to it. Warlock is a notoriously immobile caster that relies a lot on Burning Rush and having a bigger HP pool. Not anymore, cause you don't need to talent this baby. But fret not, because the extra mobility you get will be countered by the 6 seconds cast time of summoning your demons. Oh yeah. Yikes. That actually gave the devs the opportunity to give back Fell Domination. Or is it Damnation? It's Fell Domination. It's fine, we're gonna go with that. To reduce the cast time every 3 minutes. So I am sure if you are questing solo or in a dungeon, your pet will absolutely never die twice in under 3 minutes. And lastly, so far, Demonic Tyrant has been changed to incorporate the Baleful Invocation as the right trait. When you summon the Tyrant, you also get 5 soul shards, making the rotation feel better and actually keeping the spec alive, to be honest, so yay! From the Kyrians of Bastion, you get Scouring Tithe as the class Covenant ability. Personally, I don't like how this feels. In terms of functionality, it has 2, and its usage can be altered based on your encounter. You either keep it for the dot damage, which is okay-ish, and keep recasting it every 18 seconds if the target doesn't die, or use it on a target that would be dying for instant 5 shards. Considering the high traffic of incoming and outgoing shards in your resource pool, 5 shards gains is not too amazing of an effect for demo, as it would be for the other 2 specs. You could use it in a snapshot-like situation where you feed your Tyrant 2 more sets of imps. That's very specific and requires a lot of planning and conditions to be met that might force you to keep things on cooldown and being inefficient. Not that amazing, no. Not to mention, it really takes you out of the flow of your rotation, since it has no immediate effect on your builder-spender mechanic of the class or spec, or you know what I'm saying. Decimating Bolt from the Maldraxx's Necrolords might be a big yes! Essentially, you shoot out a big-ass bolt of Warlocky goodness every 45 seconds, buffing your next Shadow Bolts to deal 200% increased damage. Both the skills and the bolt damage will increase based on your target's missing health. This means execute power, and execute power is really good in raids. Maybe this coupled with sacrifice souls could make for some juicy big shadow bolts. That would be an interesting dynamic, seeing big shadow bolt damage and again potential snapshotting situations where you cast Decimating Bolt, consume a bunch of demonic cores and cast a bunch of imps, then launch 3 very strong shadow bolts. Moving to the Night Fae, you get Soul Rot. This is a castable dot that applies to your target and 3 other close by. When you drain life on one of the debuffed enemies, you drain life from all of them. The mechanic itself feels really good. The issue is that the damage is very low on its own. There is a Conduit and a legendary that can buff drain life more, but if you are not playing Affliction, this ability is no. The Venthyr come with Impending Catastrophe, which clearly has the most impressive animation and the wonking functionality. It's supposed to apply a Curse of Weakness or a Curse of Tongues on targets randomly once it hits them. And it does. It's especially nice when casters get the weakness and melee attackers get the tongues. Yeah, it still happens after so many months of testing and feedback. I assume this is intended and this is what they are going with, in which case Impending Catastrophe is a big AoE dot that will flip a coin on each target it hits to see if the curse it applies matches the target's combat profile. If not, you either have no utility gain or take it upon yourself to apply the proper curses anyway. I mean, why? The talents have received some minor changes. Doom is once again changed because the devs cannot take a hint. The skill is complete shit. It no longer summons a Doom Guard with any amount of chance to occur, but deals a decent chunk of damage after around 19 seconds pasted, and it generates a shard. No, I'm sorry, this is just underwhelming and super awkward. Supposing you take this, you would have to first make sure every target survives its duration for the damage to occur and keep track of your shards so you don't overcap. I mean, I don't know if the damage is enough to justify picking it, but it has no place in Demonology right now. It had a place when it could summon the Doom Guard, building on the fantasy. Now it's just a mega delayed damage tick. To replace Demonic Circle, you have Howl of Terror to take its place as the old AoE fear with a cast time. This is a welcomed unprune, a long lost ability, and Amanthul knows Warlocks could use more utility in dungeons to be an actual class people would love to bring. And lastly, demonic consumption has been altered a bit, and I like it. Your Tyrant will now drain 15% of your demon's HP to empower itself. That means, firstly, that it doesn't kill the demons, and that it drains HP from all the demons, meaning stuff like Vile Fiend and Grimoire Felguard. Yep, you can actually pick other talents to synergize with this baby, and if Doom can also give us a Doom Guard, maybe. One day. Wilfred's Sigil of Superior Summoning is back! We had this legendary in Legion, and with the changes to the Tyrant now granting shards, it can turn into a little bit of a snowbally ramp situation. Coupled with some conduits and demonic consumption, Vile Fiend, Grimoire, and so on, Tyrant builds could be a thing if you need burst windows every minute or so. Implosive Potential is the Azurite trait coming back as a legendary for AoE. This time it activates a 5% haste buff per imp consumed with Implosion if the damage hits at least 3 targets. So overall the effect is nerfed a bit, making it an AoE only legendary. The haste buff is consistent though. Grim Inquisitor's Dread Calling seems a bit bugged right now where the buff doesn't go away. Essentially, shards spent on Hand of Gul'dan grant you a stacking buff that will empower your next call Dreadstalkers by quite a bit. I tested this with Dreadlash, the talent, and a conduit that buffs Dreadbite's damage, and oh yeah, it hit pretty hard in AoE when it crits. As to how powerful it will be versus the other options remains to be seen. We need some sims, you know what I'm saying? I've been doing that for the whole video now. Just realized. Hope it doesn't become a thing. Know what I'm saying? Ah, okay, I got it out of my system. Forces of Horn Nightmare has a pretty straightforward mechanic. An RNG proc on more imps, which in itself is nice, especially in AoE. It would be nice if this could align with a Tyrant cast, but such is the nature of RNG. And lastly, Bale Spider's Burning Core seems a simple one, but honestly this could offer some variety. Think about it. You pick Sacrifice Souls as your last row talent and play with Decimating Bolt from the Necrolords. It could change your damage profile to lean towards Shadow Bolts and Demon Bolts. This is of course if the damage is competitive, and most likely competitive only in single target. If you are new to the Soulbind system, let me clue you in super quick. Soulbinds are kind of secondary talent trees. You select which Soulbind you want based on what passives it provides. Certain Soulbinds can be focused more on utility, others on defense, and the ones that matter on pure DPS, baby! Fuck yeah! Welcome Nadia from the Venthyr, the elusive woman in the grey dress that will make you feel bad for playing Necrolords. She comes with Thrill Seeker, where you periodically in combat gain a short buff of 20% haste. I previously talked about this saying that it should be cast speed or move speed because it says increases the speed at which you do things, because that's the tooltip. Because if it was haste, it would be OP. Well, it is haste and it's good as fuck. Other more humble Soulbinds can be Mechanicos from the Kyrians. Besides his last row ability that has a vague amount of value and power baked into it, Hammer of Genesis will be the haste variant, a more, say, reliable haste buff that will not be subject to nerf, at least I hope not. But since you will be a good boy and go to Maldraxxus, or girls play Warlocks, right? One of the stronger Soulbinds could very well be the Bonesmith Heimrir, and one day I promise I'll pronounce this name properly. With his Marrowed Gemstone trait, you can get massive crit buffs if you lean towards gearing up crit heavy. Lastly, looking at the Night Fae Covenant, I can see Khorane being an interesting option in AoE with the First Strike trait. Since you could target swap decently in dungeons, maintaining a 10% crit chance seems doable. Demo doesn't synergize a lot with crit, so it's a little unlikely on paper, but you know, new things. All of this is well and good, but there are empty slots in the Soulbind tree, slots you will fill with the conduits. Conduits are essentially gems and talents combined. Conduits are most likely the real power gain of the spec, similar to every other spec for that matter. The potency conduits, to be precise, are the damage gains, while endurance and finesse focus on defensive cooldowns and utility, respectively. Born of Blood gives Hand of Gul'dan a chance to proc a demonic core. Remember the extra proc chance Hand of Gul'dan legendary? Yeah, I don't see why these two cannot work together. Hello, Imps Bonanza! Carnivorous Stalkers gives your Dreadstalkers a chance to proc an extra Dreadbite, and your guess is pretty spot on. Dreadlash plus the legendary that buffs the damage from Dreadstalkers can net you some serious Dreadbites in AoE once the Conduit is ranked up. Yeah, they rank up. I tested Fel Commando with Demonic Strength. Holy shit! Empower your Felgar with a Tyrant with this Conduit and pop a Demonic Strength in AoE. Do you know what I am talking about here? There is some serious synergy between all of these systems if you're interested in diving into a more deep part of your spec, or simply focus on Tyrant's Soul, where Tyrant will extend its buff, 10% at least, for 10 more seconds after it dies, and gives a demonic core. If you play the Wilfred legendary for more Tyrants, this buff can have some serious uptime. And yeah, I mentioned that conduits can rank up, and they will, all the way up to rank 15. So the power scaling can become pretty bonkers later on. I don't know, 9.1? Since not every Soulbind tree can unlock all 3 potency conduit slots, decision making and character build-up can impact your playstyle. More so since the offensive traits your Soulbinds have are more often than not on the path of getting all 3 potency conduit slots. Soul Rot is one of the more iconic Warlock ability, and it reminds me of the Gul'dan scene from the Warcraft movie when he powers the Dark Portal. I get that it should be an affliction-themed mechanic, but if the devs are going to lock us in a covenant, make it worth our time. Buff the baseline damage of Drain Life. Maybe make it deal 1% more damage per demon out, or something similar to interact with the spec, or make it deal 5% more damage per soul shard available. Something, I don't know. Class tuning is on its way, so we might see some balancing in abilities, so fingers crossed. I don't want Doom to go away. I want the fantasy of it spawning a Doom Guard to be something we can play with and around. Making it stronger with a way to actually get the Doom Guard might make it too good for the role, but as a Warlock and a Demo Warlock especially, I miss having control over big ass demons, and spawning a Doom Guard for a short time to actually provide damage seems like such an appealing thing to add to the spec. Maybe it can even have an interrupt available that we could use. Maybe have Doom have either 100% chance to spawn a lesser demon, I don't know, an Eye of Kilrog or whatever, that stays alive for 10 seconds and just has 1 interrupt available, and a 5% chance to spawn a Doom Guard for 30 seconds that acts like a mini Infernal type cooldown, deals damage, has a kick, you know, that won't work with the current Doom that can be casted on multiple targets because it might be too overpowered. You can also lower the percentage, but then again, how likely it is for that to happen in an M+ environment, and who in their right mind plays a 5% chance mechanic in a highly competitive, highly intensive environment like a Mythic Key, supposedly a high one. I just feel the devs are afraid to have this mechanic be something reliable for Warlocks. Take a chance. When was the last time Demonology was good outside the 1 week of explosive potential in BOD? I would strongly recommend you should check the Council of the Black Harvest community on Discord for any more in-depth knowledge and theory crafting that has been done for demo. Most likely any future tuning and what will mean for the performance of the spec will be discussed there, no doubt. And you know what else gives no doubt? Our segue skills, heyo! A heartfelt thank you to our patrons for supporting our content and making all of this possible, this and a lot more that we do on our channel and on our streams, because you do support us on streams as well, so we really like to thank you. It is not required, but it does help us out, and if you, dear viewer, are interested in checking what this is all about, maybe supporting us a little bit more, if you like our content, you can check the links down below. There's a link to our Patreon, to our Teespring merch, and a lot of good stuff, so thank you very much for watching the video all the way to the end. You are amazing, and we'll see you next time.
I've been loving it then, I still love it now. Still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. Getting better every day, let me show you how. Cause still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. It's getting harder to stay, but at the end of the day, it's a guilty pleasure, so just log in and play. Whether it's classic or retail, I'ma do a /bow. Still, I play WoW.